101.1 FM, AM 1160, and WCCSradio.com. Good morning to you. That is Senator Joe Pittman, standing just on the other side of the microphone from me. And our conversation with the senator brought to you by Marcus & Mack, voted best personal injury law firm in the Best of Indiana County contest. Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. How are you?
Good, Todd. How are you?
Wonderful. It's good to have you in the studio with us here today. We don't get this opportunity very much because you're such a busy guy.
We're all over the place. I was just last night in Big Run for a town hall meeting, which is a new part of the district. And so I was up there yesterday evening, and we had a good conversation about a lot of things.
When you have those introductory events such as that, where you've not had a lot of experience in that area, do you often get questions? Are they more along the lines of, who the heck are you? Or what's going on in Harrisburg, and how can we get a little bit of information about what's actually happening in the...
Actually, it's more localized.
Is it really?
I tend to find that when I have town hall meetings, what's on folks' mind is more about their roads, broadband infrastructure, other infrastructure needs, more localized community concerns. We do get into Harrisburg issues, of course. People don't generally care much about me. I just, I do explain where I'm from, and of course, having grown up in Purchase Line and living in Hillsdale with my parents all those years, the Punxsutawney Big Run area is very much an area that's I've been familiar with all my life.
Yeah.
And so I do, introduce myself in the sense of understanding the community and, of course, explaining how the boundaries change every 10 years and why I've become their state senator. But it's much more of a localized conversation.
When those boundaries change, they do in such a way that, it is a large area that encompasses the 41st District, all of the other districts as well. They've got a large geographical area. And I don't know that there are regional issues that aren't the same there as they are here. But it really does take a lot of effort to be able to make sure that everybody knows that they have somebody in Harrisburg.
It does, and that's one of the things when I had the meeting last night. I actually had a map of the district behind me, and I used that to underscore how big of a territory you need to have 255,000 people. And I pointed out that Big Run is in the northeast corner, goes down to Ligonier, goes over to New Kensington, and then goes up to Parker City, all of Armstrong, all of Indiana, northern Westmoreland, and southern Jefferson County, just to try to demonstrate that the districts we represent are based on population. And frankly, I underscored the importance of the census and why it's important to answer the census. Obviously, we're well past that, but it has a direct effect on the ability to have communities be represented in Harrisburg and Washington, D.C.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's get to Harrisburg right now and some of the things that have been going on there. You finally have the House back in session, only a couple of days so far, but there finally is actually a fall term going on.
Yes, there is. After the special election in Allegheny County, and the House is now back to full complement. They've reconvened this week. Hopefully, whenever they swear in the new member, they'll be able to advance an agenda and we can try to get some issues taken care of that are lingering. The budget is mainly in place. Obviously, the sun continues to come up every day. Government is functioning. The world moves on. But there are still other issues that we have to get taken care of.
One of those issues that I think is quieted and kind of hard to figure why, because we've got an election coming up, is election security. We're not hearing as much about that lately as we were following the last couple of election cycles. Where do we stand on that? Are we comfortable with election security in Pennsylvania?
Well, election security actually has popped back up. The governor just unilaterally made a change to how individuals can register to vote whenever they update their driver's license information. And what was so frustrating about his unilateral decision on that front is he took no time to consult with us on what he was doing and why he was doing it, number one. And number two, he continues to forget that the time, manner, and place of elections is vested in the authority of the General Assembly. And so it's caused a lot of consternation and concern and, frankly, suspicion as to why such an abrupt change so quickly. And we've been working very hard to understand the real implications of that. But election security and election integrity have always been at the top of our list. The first piece of legislation we passed in the Senate was a constitutional amendment on voter ID. I think people tend to forget that when you register to vote, when you vote the first time, you have to show ID. Mm-hmm. And so I don't understand what the problem is showing ID the second, third, fourth, and fifth time, just to demonstrate that you are who you say they are. So that is out there. There's another piece that we just had a consensus on. There's a national system called ERIC, which shares information of voter registration data. We just had the Department of State make it clear that third parties can't access that data, which was very important for us because we felt that was a source of harvesting. Mm-hmm. And, ballot harvesting is illegal, but you can't tell me that it doesn't occur. And so that was an area that we thought was very important. That just developed last week. So it is at the top of the mind.
Yeah, and there's an election coming up very soon, and people naturally get concerned about that. We're a year out from a presidential election, and it's just going to ramp up. Mm-hmm. It's not going to go quiet.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. I want to come back to the district a little bit. We had Dana Henry in with us in our last hour talking about Manufacturing Day and the importance of manufacturing and how important it is in Indiana County specifically. And, it's a really big part of what we do. It might be a little quieter than some of the splashier things like what restaurants coming and all of that and where's the new store going to be. But it's really the foundation of where that money comes from to utilize and patronize those stores.
Absolutely. And I think that one of the misconceptions that we have in this region is that there are not manufacturing jobs available. And the reality is there are. And so as Dana was in earlier this morning, he talked about on October 2nd from 9 to 12 a.m. at the Career Link on Indian Springs Road, there will be a career fair for manufacturing jobs specifically. And there are several manufacturers in the region that will be there. And they have the Help Wanted sign out. There are jobs available. There's no question that there are jobs available, and they are good-paying jobs. And the manufacturing piece is still a significant backbone in the economy. And to your point, Todd, that's what creates wealth, and that's what creates the opportunity for people to go to restaurants, to go to events, and to do things with disposable income that otherwise they wouldn't have. And that's what helps spur the economy even further. So I hope that anybody out there that's looking for a job and looking for a career path would take a look at the Manufacturing Consortium's Career Day on October 2nd, 9 a.m. at the Indian Springs Career Link.
Yeah, there are some good jobs out there, and we've got the jobs. We have to have the people to fill them.
That's right.
Because it really is a two-way street, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And, I think this is where our demographics have really come home to roost for us. And, I often point to the 90s when I graduated from high school. Our labor market was flooded because we had tens of thousands of coal miners that lost their jobs. Well, now those individuals are largely left the labor market. My generation has largely been pushed out of the area, and now there's a bit of a void as it relates to the labor force that we need to continue to maintain what we have here. Yeah.
Talking with Senator Joe Pittman this morning and just bouncing around a number of issues. I note the discussions at IUP about the master plan that were held. The event was held yesterday, and talking about the future of the campus itself is really talking about the future of the university, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And one of the interesting things about picking up the Punxsutawney area is that the culinary program is now part of the district I represent. I look at that as a very important example of how IUP can grow and diversify in different ways to help meet the career demands that are out there in the current job market. And I've been very focused on working with IUP and the state system to get the culinary facility up and running. It's long overdue, and it's going to be a cornerstone of the Punxsutawney community. But when I look at the system overall, I'm very encouraged. We in this budget made significant investments in the system for a second year in a row, and it's allowed the state system to, I believe for 5 years now, not raise tuition. which has been very important. And when you look at IUP going away from the per credit tuition model to a flat tuition rate, you're seeing the enrollment throughout the state system start to stabilize. And I think you're going to see that happen at IUP. In fact, I believe their freshman class saw a several hundred student increase over the year prior. So I do think that we've turned a corner as it relates to the state system and IUP in particular, but a big part of it is the physical plant. Mm-hmm. And I've often said that the state system needs to make sure that the universities are right-sized from a physical plant perspective to maintain the student population they currently have. There's a lot of talk about closing campuses, one of the 14 state system schools. I don't think that's practical, but what I do think is practical is making sure that each of those universities have a physical plant that makes more sense and is more sustainable.
Now, that state system, other schools that do receive a substantial chunk of money from Pennsylvania as a Commonwealth include Pitt, Penn State, the state-related universities, and some of the moves that they have been making for us in a state system town just might seem like hostage taking. There was the announcement by Pitt, give us more money or we raise tuition, and it just doesn't sit well, I think, with a lot of folks.
It doesn't, and I have to say I'm frustrated with the state-relateds, particularly the University of Pittsburgh, but also as a Penn State alum, I recognize that they have received hundreds of millions of dollars in state subsidy year over year from the Commonwealth. And sometimes when I look at what they espouse in terms of their, quote, critical missions, they tend to branch out in ways that I don't think are very productive. And I think you've seen that quite extensively at the University of Pittsburgh. And frankly, it's frustrating to have taxpayer dollars continue to go to subsidize some of the activities at state-related universities. I recognize they reduce in-state tuition, and they claim that what we subsidize them for helps reduce that in-state tuition. But at the end of the day, they have to, in my opinion, refocus on delivering the core needs of an educational opportunity and leave some of the more socialized issues to the wayside.
Do you have events scheduled here in Indiana County or around the area in the near future?
We have events scheduled throughout the district in the near future. In fact, I just was with the Ag Breakfast this morning over at the Jimmy Stewart Airport. It was a good conversation and actually tied in IRMC's residency program with rural health and how we get health care into the rural communities and in particular the ag communities. And that was a very good conversation that I thought was really productive. I know we have the ribbon cutting for the art gallery here Saturday, a new ribbon cutting for that. I have an Eagle Scout presentation down at Keystone State Park on Saturday. So there's quite a few things that are moving. Monday I return to Harrisburg, and then we'll be back in the district for many other meetings and events.
Not busy at all, are you?
Not busy at all, but that's the good part of this work.
Hey, Senator Joe Pittman, thanks for the visit. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Todd. Anytime.
It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, and WCCSradio.com. 25 minutes after 9 o'clock, the CBS Sports brought to you by S&T Bank, People Forward Banking.
Just the usual for me. I'm barely awake.
I'll have a pumpkin spice latte.
Ooh, maybe I should spice things up.
A double shot?
Bigger.